Everybody, so today I am really excited to take you through my first impressions of the Fujifilm X-T5. I was able to take it with me on a shoot this weekend, so I definitely have some thoughts on the camera as well as a lot of test photos to show you. So I think first and foremost, the learning curve of using this camera was reduced significantly because it reminds me so much of the X-T3. With the X-H2, which I'm shooting with right now, I had to kind of get used to it as far as like the GFX style buttons on top with the ISO button and then having to scroll. If you've ever used an XT camera, you're gonna pick this right up. It's very easy to kind of dive right back into those same ergonomics that you're familiar with. As far as the image quality, I will say it looks identical to what I've been seeing on the X-H2. So sharp, high-res images, really nice colors, all very malleable based on film simulations and any adjustments that you make to white balance. One thing I was really happy to see, I finally am digging into the raw files on this sensor. I will say I haven't seen any worms in Lightroom. I'm using minimal to no sharpening, so that could be why, but you don't really need the sharpening because these are so sharp at 40 megapixels. One thing I really want to talk about with this camera is the grip that they added. So definitely has a deeper grip than the X-T3. I almost remember the X-T3 feeling like flush against my finger. So not only is this deeper, but then there is a more pronounced sort of grip on the back for your thumb. So between those two, you have a really strong grip on this camera. And it kind of felt similar to the X-H2, how stable I feel when I'm holding that grip. Obviously, it's not as deep, but it felt like, you know, I wasn't going to drop it. At the shoot, there were a few times where I was just kind of like extending my arm and just had it by my hand without a strap, and I wasn't worried about dropping it. One thing I was getting used to on the X-H2 was the custom modes on the PASM dial for different film simulations. I was worried I'd miss that here. I don't think I was advanced enough of a user when I had the X-T3 to know that there are 3 custom white balance settings on here in the menu. So that really makes up for not having the PASM dial. And honestly, I mean, I prefer these dials over the PASM dial anyway. I've said this before, I will say it again. There is nothing that beats being able to do ISO and shutter speed on the 2 dials. Not being able to do that on the X-H2 is a big reason why I haven't been picking it up as often as I've been picking this up. I will say that when I was at this shoot, there were a few times where I just put the X-H2 down because I couldn't task switch. I couldn't get my brain to transition from the dials to the ISO button, then the dial. So I would say, like, as much as these 2 cameras match with their image quality, if you're gonna get 2 bodies, I'd get 2 of the same. The one benefit of the X-H2 is this screen over here. And that is why this body is worth keeping for me, and definitely a body that I want to use for video more often. The flip out screen is clutch for vlogging like this, like being able to see myself. I would say that's one of the main considerations of why you would want the X-H2 over the X-T5. The X-H2 feels more like a professional body. It is a little bit bigger. The grip is a little bulkier. And while that's really wonderful to hold and use, you know, you're not going to be as inclined to be like, oh, let me quickly get a picture of the cats with the X-H2. It feels like a more involved thing, even though it's really not. Whereas with the X-T5, I would just pick it up really quick and bring it and take a quick shot. So I do think this body design does inspire you to kind of walk around with this camera a little bit more. As far as the battery life, I only had to switch the battery once during this shoot. For each body. Battery life is about the same on the X-T5 versus the X-H2. So I'm going to show you guys a few more test photos just so that you can get a real sense of the capabilities of this camera. I used primarily the 3314 by Fuji as well as the 90f2 for this shoot. A couple of them are 50f1, but I think it was mostly the 33 and the 90. So here you go. So, should you buy this camera? I think that if you are in the market for a stills camera, this is your winner here. The X-H2 I would only recommend if you're going to be doing video and need that 8K, or the flip screen for a vlogging situation like I'm in right now. Otherwise, I'd highly recommend this, especially if you're an XT user from the past. I would say anyone who has a past XT camera and is very comfortable with those styles and ergonomics and how to use that camera will be able to pick this up right away, and that will heavily reduce your learning curve of switching to a new camera. I would also say, as I'm using these more, both the X-H2 and the X-T5 do perform better with the Fujifilm lenses. There's just no doubt about that. The Viltrox lenses are working well on it. I'm shooting with the 13mm right now. I'm just noticing autofocus is snappier. The images are a little bit cleaner. They just look clear a little bit better. It's hard to put your finger on, but they definitely just look a little bit better. The cameras operate a little bit better with the Fuji lenses, so I do just want to call that out as well. I would just say if you're thinking about the X-T5, debating the X-H2, go with the X-T5. There's a reason you think you don't need the X-H2. I would just do it. I do also think 6.2K on here. 8K versus 6.2K, I mean, who cares? All right, so with that being said, I'm gonna end the video before this gets too long. We definitely are gonna be doing a lot more videos on the X-T5, as well as some of the lenses that I have here and kind of which ones I think you should buy for these systems. Be sure to leave any questions in the comments below, and I will definitely get back to you guys, especially in a future video. All right, so with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.